Before we get into today's video, I've got 3 things for you. Number 1, if you want to get a notification whenever we post a new video, make sure you ring that bell. Number 2, there's a TCGPLAYER affiliate link in the show notes. After clicking that link, every purchase you make on TCGPLAYER.com helps support this channel. Number 3, you'll also find a link to our Patreon where you can support us directly. And now, kick back and enjoy the show.
Yeah, so we're here today doing something kind of cool. We are going to learn how to set up a game space for playing Magic over the internet. Playing paper Magic over the internet, though. We're not playing MTGO. We're not playing Arena. We're not playing anything like that. We're playing cards. We're playing paper Magic with your hands on a table, but we're going to do it over the internet. We're going to do it through video chat. So, provided everything sounds and looks good, everybody can see me, we're just going to hop right into it. There's actually a lot of communities for playing EDH, and really there's probably other forms of Magic that you can play online as well, but I know EDH is a really common one. Yeah, CEDH Nexus is a great place to do that. There's also the Play EDH Discord server. There's a bunch of streamers that do live EDH. One of the ones that they haven't streamed in a while, but one of my favorites is Commander Live. There's also MTG Lexicon. There's our good friend Olivia's stream at Affinity Artifacts here on Twitch. Yeah, Scotty's stream was a really good one. Scotty just did his last stream, but I think he's maybe not gone forever. Don't quote me on that. I don't have any inside information at all, except for maybe a little bit of inside information. But there's like so many cool people that stream paper EDH online. And if you ever want to get in on that action, you need to have an appropriate game space set up. And let me tell you, like, I don't even play online that much, and I have seen some truly horrendous setups. Yeah, so I've seen some truly horrendous ones. It's like everything that you could imagine, I've seen. I know there are people that have their they've got glare somewhere on their screen. You can't see their cards. It's too dark. There's too many shadows. With that being said, let's get right into it. I'm going to go over a quick overview of the gear that I'm using right now. I'm also going to let you know roughly how much it costs. I'm going to give you the keywords that you want to search if you're looking online, if you're looking on Amazon or anything like that. I'll tell you what to search for. I am going to hopefully edit this into a video that we're going to release on YouTube. So if you're looking for like actual spec requirements, you can either like @ me on Discord if you're on Discord, or you can wait until the video gets released and I'll include links to all of the equipment that we're using in the show notes to that video. So without further ado, we're going to start with these arms. So these arms are really great. These are called scissor mounts. And you might recognize them. You might have like a lamp that has this kind of a mechanism. They're adjustable, they're metal, and they're kind of spring loaded here. They've got a number of dials that you can, they're like knobs that you can use to adjust the stiffness, whether you want it to stay where you put it or whether you want it to spring back. Red say you, like, or red eye sow. Yeah, take notes. This is going to be a video. My hope is that this video will be a reference material for anybody that wants to do this in the future. So if you're streaming on any of our cool friends' platforms, if you're on their streams, welcome to the video. And I hope you get a lot out of this. Yeah, this is a scissor arm. What it is this one in particular clamps to my table. So what it is, it's got a little knob on the end here, a little silver knob. It's actually underneath the table. You can't really see it. But you know what? I'm going to go over around to the other side of the table. So I don't know if you can see, but this has got a clamp. It clamps down to the edge of the table just by spinning this knob at the bottom here. So what you want to do is set up your arm so it is firmly attached to the table. You want to trip over some extension cords. You want to make sure that it's firmly attached to the edge of the table. Ideally, this is going to be in front of you, and ideally, it's going to be in the center of your playmat. So you should be able to, if you can draw a line down the center of your playmat, you should be able to draw a line right to the base of your camera mount, if that makes sense. Extension cords, trip, noted. Got it. Okay, so we've got our camera mount. What this actually has on the end of it, the end that hooks into the webcam, you have to make sure that this is the appropriate size to fit into the bottom of your webcam. Now that's going to vary based on what kind of a webcam you're using. I'm using a Logitech C920. This is a very standard webcam. You'll find these all over the place. Streamers love to use these because they're like entry level. They're not super expensive. These run in Canadian dollars and dollary-doos. These will run about $75. I believe in the US you can find them on services like Amazon for about $50. What I would personally recommend, there's a ton of failed streamers out there. So look for one secondhand if you can find it. If you've got like a secondhand bulletin board website that you can use to look for electronics, that is a great place to find these. In Canada, you would look on probably Kijiji. In the US, I think Craigslist is a little bit more popular, so you might want to check Craigslist. But if you can pick one of these up for $35 or $30, you're laughing. They're a good quality webcam, they're durable, good image quality, and yeah, you'll enjoy it. So, the mount on the bottom of this Logitech C920, I think I said it was 1080p. I think you need the Logitech 922 to go in 1080p, but Spleen Pace brings up a good point. The mount on the bottom of this is you'll see it referred to as 1/4 20, and that's the type of bolt that actually screws into the bottom of this. So it's actually got like a female end for a bolt. You can go to the hardware store and pick up a 1/4 20 bolt. You'll see it as like 1/4-20, and that'll fit into the bottom of any Logitech C920 webcam. And they actually fit into the bottom of most cameras too. Like we're talking SLR cameras, we're talking like the camcorder that I'm using right now has the same 1/4 20 bolt adapter for the bottom. It's a very, very common size. So if you wanted to build something, if you don't want to pick up a metal camera arm, or if you don't have anything to clamp it to, you can actually build something if you want. If you're handy, you can build something out of PVC pipe. I've seen that really successful. You can build something out of wood. You could take like 1x4s and you could just build something if you're handy like that. If you're not, these are, the camera arm is maybe, I think they're about $20 Canadian on Amazon. That's probably $12 or $15 US. They're not going to break the bank. All told, this setup, we're talking, it'll be under $100 Canadian, probably about $60 to $75 US. So once you've got your webcam threaded into your camera arm and you've got your camera arm attached to the desk, you are plugging it into the USB port in your computer. A lot of the time you're going to have more success if you've got a USB 3 port in your computer, a little bit of a faster transfer rate. I'm not a huge expert on that, so don't ask me a ton of technical questions about bit rates and video. I'm mostly stumbling through that, but I can tell you how to physically set up your play space. Yeah, don't use a USB hub. So USB ports have a maximum amount of information that they can take. If you imagine this is a pipe with water flowing through it, your bandwidth of your port into your computer is like the diameter of your pipe. So a thinner pipe is not going to move as much water. USB port can only hold so much data. It's not just infinite bandwidth. So there's a couple things you have to pay attention to there. If you think that you can get away with using a USB splitter, so that's something that plugs into your USB port, and I've actually got one hooked up to my computer right now, but I'm not running my webcams through it. I'm running my mouse and my microphone through it. But if you think that you're going to get more than one webcam into a laptop, to save on a USB port or something, it's probably not going to work the way that you want it to work. Second is not every USB port on your computer. Like I'm using a laptop right now, it has 3 USB ports. It only actually has 2 hubs. So 2 of the USB ports are on one hub. They share an amount of bandwidth, and the other one is on its own hub. That is on its own. It has its own bandwidth. So if I plug in 2 webcams to the 2 ports that are on the same hub, I'm going to end up with bandwidth problems. But if I plug it into the 2 that are on different ports, we're not going to have those problems. So I've plugged it into my computer. I'm just running one webcam, so you don't have to run two webcams. I'm currently running two cameras right now just so that you can see me talking, so that it's not just, you know, staring at my hands going like this. But yeah, so we've got the webcam set up. We've got it plugged into our computer, and now we've got it facing downward at our play area. So I'm going to show you what it looks like here. This is where the real technology comes in. Here's what my overhead play space looks like. So you can see as I move this down or up, it's going to change the way that my webcam works. Oh, thanks, the mother effing mage. Thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. So we've got the webcam set up. It's pointed down at the playmat. What we're looking to do here is we want to frame the play space as best we can. We want to make sure that as much of it is in frame as possible. And we want to make sure that we're not too zoomed in. So if you zoom in too much, the problem is people aren't going to be able to see your whole board state. If you're way, way, way zoomed out like this, people aren't going to be able to tell what kind of cards you're running. So what we want to do, the good news is playmats are mostly the same aspect ratio as like a screen. So we're just going to try and finesse this while looking at the screen if you can. I am wearing pants, they're sweatpants, super comfortable. And we're just going to finesse this down until we can't see the playmat anymore, or we can't see the edges of the table anymore. This is a little finicky, but the good news is once you have it all set up, you shouldn't have to touch it anymore. And this is a really good point from Blue Magnus Stormcrow. If you set it up correctly, you'll never need pants, because people shouldn't be staring down into your lap. The biggest problem when people are staring down into your lap, I'm gonna set this up like this so you can stare down into my lap, is that if you're holding your cards like this, people can see what's in your hand. And that's no good. You don't want that. We want to keep our hands off the camera so people can't see what's in our hand, in our hidden zone. And that's a double entendre, absolutely. So this is looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. The other thing you can do is you can move your playmat too. You can do this if your play space is big enough. You can move your playmat around, you can center it, you can kind of tilt it, make it look good. But once you've got it the way you want it, this looks pretty good. Once you've got it the way that you want it, what I like to do is just take a little bit of masking tape and just mark where the edges of your playmat are. Because if you're able to leave your camera set up like this, some people are, some people aren't. But if you can tape out where your playmat is, leave your camera where it is, then it's going to help in future setups. You won't have to like start from scratch when you're kind of calibrating every time. The other tip that I like giving is, yeah, the playmat is backwards, but we will talk about that in a sec. Yeah, the other tip that I like giving, you'll notice that my elbow is on the table, and every time I knock the table, you can see it's shaking the playmat. That's not good. It's like fine, but if you can attach it to something that's not your desk, that will also increase the quality of your stream. One thing that we do when we are recording on the spike feeders here, we have an open ceiling. So we actually hang these on the joists in the rafters. So we just clip these scissor mounts. We just clamp them onto the joists, and then nobody's touching them. Nobody's like bumping them. Nobody's bumping the table. And you know, you're not hearing that in the microphone. You're not seeing it on the webcam. So couple questions in chat. Is everything backwards? The camera is mirrored right now because of the last stream that I was on. So Olivia Affinity Artifacts uses Discord video for I don't know if both cameras are mirrored. I'm using one of this camera up here as a camcorder that I've got hooked into a capture card right now. So I haven't really configured it much. It's just kind of doing its own thing. But this overhead camera right here, this one is mirrored, because on Discord video, I believe some kind of a setting that Olivia has it mirrored. Now we've got everything lined up, and you'll notice one thing here. I'm just gonna do this. What webcams have a tendency to do you see what's going on here? What webcams have a tendency to do is when the object moves closer and further from the webcam, it's going to autofocus and it's going to auto adjust the brightness. So you don't want that happening midstream. Sometimes it'll, totally get knocked out of focus and it just won't come back. One thing that I like to do, go into your webcam settings. I don't have my screen capture set up to show you this, but Google how to turn off autofocus on your webcam. So there's tons of tutorials out there with Logitech. If you're using a Logitech C920, there is Logitech configurations software where you can set some preferences. You can flip the screen like mine is here if you need to. And the webcam does lag a bit when it autofocuses too. That's a good point. But what you can do is you can set it up so that your playmat and your cards are in focus when you're doing your testing of your setup. And then you can just turn off autofocus. And then it'll just stay at that level of focus. You can turn off auto brightness too if you want to do that. But yeah, then it's not, your computer's not using any additional processing power. Your webcam's not going to get knocked out of focus. It's not going to lag. I can't promise it's not going to lag, but this won't be the cause of the lag. So we've got this all set up. I heard somebody in chat ask the question, what kind of quality of webcam and quality of microphone do you need? With a webcam, I don't think I would go lower than 720p. There are ways that you can set up your cell phone to do this using, I forget what they're called, but if you Google it, how do I use my my cell phone as a webcam? There are a bunch of tutorials on how to do that. I've never done it. I like to have my cell phone handy while I'm streaming, just in case I'm bored, just in case I need to look up Oracle text on stuff. If I can't read something on somebody else's board, I might want to look up the card. And in terms of microphones, one thing that those of you that have been around since the beginning of the stream would know is that sometimes you're going to get an echo. The webcam mic I would not use. The webcam mic is typically very low quality. If you've got a headset, I would definitely recommend using it. This, as you can see on the stream, this is just a RAZER, I don't know what it is, a Kraken, something like that. I forget what they're called. But honestly, any headset is probably going to be better than the webcam microphone. I recommend a headset for two reasons when you're streaming. First reason is camera quality always sounds better when the microphone is really close to your mouth. So you can get away with poor quality equipment if you can control the conditions that you use it in. And if you've got your webcam, pointed downwards, if you've got your webcam maybe a little bit further away from your face, it's gonna be reflected in poor audio. The second reason why I would recommend a headset is because you have to be able to listen to what the other people are saying, and you don't necessarily want your speakers sound getting picked up by your microphone, and that's where a headset is going to come in really, really handy, because you can just crank the volume on your headphones in the the earpieces in the headset, and you're not going to get any feedback with your microphone. You're not going to cause an echo. CNC Power Hour makes a really, really good point that webcam mics pick up way too much room noise, so you're going to hear echoes. I'm in a basement right now, and you would probably hear my furnace. There's a chest freezer in the corner. Actually, what my webcam's sitting on right now is a chest freezer. All of that noise would be super, super, super loud, and you don't want that when you're playing games. Because it'll be like, I don't know if you've ever played, video games when you're, if somebody's got a poor microphone or they're using, their laptop microphone or something like that, and you're picking up their laptop fan. Their processor's really working hard, and you can hear the whine from their laptop fan. It sounds like a jet engine taking off because it's right next to the microphone. You don't want that. get a headset. I would absolutely recommend it. If you like are really interested in a real setup, yeah, room fans are annoying as hell. That is so true. Yeah, I mean, I also live by an airport, so you can hear planes overhead. You won't hear that because you can turn your input way down on a headset microphone. You can also use any kind of microphone that you want. So I'm using right now, this is a shotgun microphone. I picked this up on Amazon. It's like a $90 no-name shotgun microphone. That's what I'm using right now. You could use Blue Snowball. Those are really common. Again, you can go on secondhand websites like Craigslist, Kijiji, find Blue Snowballs or Blue Yetis from failed streamers. They're everywhere. Yeah, even with earbuds. If your earbuds have a built-in microphone, I've seen people use those for streams. I've seen people use those for like interviews, like Skype interviews. Like any microphone that you can get closer to your mouth is going to be better than A, your laptop or built-in computer microphone, or B, the microphone that's in the webcam. So that's pretty much it for equipment. I'm going to get into lights in a second because I want to show you what this overhead angle looks like. I'm just going to put down a couple cards here. We do this every time we record games because the conditions might be a little bit different. Okay, I'm just going to toss down, just a few casual cards here. I'm absolutely flexing right now. I'm just going to move the cards around the screen just so you can see. Let me know in chat if you see something going on. It actually doesn't look too bad right now. Oh, but look at this. Hang on, we're going behind our thing here. I'm just going to move my face out of the way because we've identified a problem. Look what happens when I move from this bottom corner up to this top corner. It's ascending. So now we've got a white square. This used to be an underground sea, bottom right corner, top left corner. It is a totally white square. This is a really good question. Foils and non-foils actually do not make a difference if you have your lighting set up correctly. You could play unsleeved if you wanted to. It's still going to cause problems if your lighting is not configured correctly. The number one cause of glare, and there's like a million different causes of glare, but the number one cause of glare is the angle of your light. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to put my hand, everybody look at the small image, like the one so that you can see me over here. I'm waving my hands. What I want you to do is look at where my hand is and see how I'm casting a shadow. That shadow is going to move across my playmat. And then once I reach the point, this isn't really working out too well because I'm actually covering up. Oh, here we go. You see how my hand is blocking some light? And that as soon as I get to the point where my shadow starts covering up the underground sea, it stops being a white square, right? The reason why that's happening is I've got light that's coming down from the ceiling. I've got a light directly above me. Okay, so I'm not going to show you this, but I just take my word for it. I've got a light. It's like a directional pot light. I'm in my basement. It's directly above me. What's happening is light is coming down from the basement or from the basement ceiling. It's hitting my playmat or the cards on my playmat, and it's being directed right back up into the lens of my webcam, right like that. So what's happening is right here, this underground sea, look, boom, glare, right up into my webcam. So what's actually happening, I'm going to move my sort of face camcorder so you can see what I have going on with my light setup. You guys see how I have a light set up there? So what's actually happening there is I've got a light that's really high up. It's pointed directly down at the table and it's at a really sharp angle. So my light is really, really close to the table and it's high up. Now what's happening, like I mentioned, it's bouncing down off the table, bouncing up into the lens. The way that we can avoid that is by doing one of two things. And I'm going to leave this card here and you guys can see on the camera as I move my light how this changes. Okay, so you can see it's still not perfect, but it's quite a bit better. This is no longer totally a white square. But what we've got is the light is coming in at a really low angle. What's happening is, rather than it coming down from a steep angle from the ceiling, it's coming down from a shallow angle. And so when it's hitting my playmat, it's going sort of towards my other camera, right? So this is why you can see the whole table surface on the this camera right here is basically glare, right? Because what's happening now is it's going shallow angle, bouncing back up directly into that camera, instead of going up into this camera. But this is no longer a white square. You can now see it. The downside to this is that you'll notice how long my shadows are and how pronounced they are. So like my hand is fairly far back from my playmat and there's a huge shadow being cast. So this is not ideal. It's better. So if you have the choice between direct overhead light and shallow angle light for a stream, definitely go with shallow angle light, okay? It's not perfect, and if you only have one light source, it'll do. It'll get you through a stream. But it'll just be really shadowy. What you really want to do to control glare and shadows at the same time is have multiple light sources. So we're gonna go back to our other angle here. Yep, CNC Power Hour makes a really good point. Get some of those China ball lantern lights. Anything that's really diffused rather than like a spotlight. You want even distribution of light around the room. You're still going to have to play around with angles a little bit, but he's right. If you put them on either side of the playmat, you're going to have multiple light sources. It's going to be fairly diffused. And again, you probably want a shallow angle, not directly above your play surface, because you don't want it to bounce down, hit the mat, and go right back up into your camera lens. So one thing that you can see right here, this is what I tripped over earlier. I've got more lights. So we're going to see how this looks differently on the webcam play space on the overhead as I set up these lights and turn off my direct overhead lights. There we go. Doesn't that look incredible? Because now we don't have these like massive shadows. Like if I put my hand up, I'm not putting like, 2/3 of my board space in shadow. My board is super evenly lit. And here, I'll move my thing out of the way. And you can see my cards in actually really, really good detail. Vexillology, would 3 lights, 1 for each side, be even better than just the 2 you have set up? Yeah, absolutely. More lights are going to be better. You don't want to have a ton of high intensity lights. So these lights that I have are dimmable. That works really well. Dimmable lights are awesome, but as a general rule with lighting, we're going to end up with better light quality if we can have more light sources that are each at a dimmer quality. And Vexillology makes a good point. I think I missed the point of your question, and that's like, where would I find games? Okay, so PlayEDH Discord is a really good one. If you want to find a link to that, I'm sure somebody can be kind enough to drop the link to the PlayEDH Discord in chat. I know there's also some people here repping the CEDH Nexus, so if you are on, if you're playing CEDH, you can play on CEDH Nexus. They're a great group of folks as well. There are a couple other places as well. I've never played in those places, so I don't want to vouch for them. But I can tell you, PlayEDH and CEDH Nexus are great. Good people there. So that's lighting. So you can see that even though we've got some foils here, right? Like this is an ancient tomb, that's a foil. We have no glare at all. And this is like anywhere on the board. We have no glare, right? None at all. Just beautiful cards. So essentially, that's more or less it. I did mention why my playmat is backwards. And in fact, all of these cards, God, you can see my grungy sleeves when I hold them up like this. All my cards are backwards too. This is because the last stream that I played on, the person who was hosting the stream, all of their stuff was flipped. Hey, good guy Ben, thanks for joining us. All of the stuff was flipped on the broadcast. So all of our input had to be backwards so that when it got flipped on the broadcast, that it would be the correct direction, if that makes sense. I don't know, Logan was running it, blame him. Yeah, so normally it wouldn't be flipped like this. You wouldn't want to have it flipped, but you can change that setting a lot of the time in your webcam configuration software. So like I mentioned, Logitech has one built in. It's just software that you can download online, or you can download it from Logitech's website. But yeah, you can flip horizontal, flip vertical. You can also like zoom in and out if you, for whatever reason, can't get your webcam up high enough, or if you can't get it up low enough. You can zoom in a little bit. If you end up having to mount it to the ceiling, yeah, you can do all of that within the software. You can also change the white balance if you want to do that too. Contrast, brightness, saturation, the whole deal. If you know how to do those settings, great. If not, I would just leave them on auto. But yeah, those two discords are great. Play EDH, just make sure that you read the rules though. Peter makes a really good point in chat. CEDH, when you play at the CEDH tier, they're expecting that you're not bringing like meme decks. Hang on, I'm going to switch back to my beautiful face angle here. They're expecting you to play like tiered CEDH decks. These are like established best decks in the format, as well as the decks that are specifically designed to play against them. If you are not playing those decks, I would recommend playing a tier lower. But definitely they all have very, very comprehensive rules and guides for how to set something like this up. Equipment recommendations, like non-video format. I think it's in like a Google Docs document. They'll also have like a guide for whether, like, how to tell what level you're playing at. So they'll have like some descriptions of what a high power deck looks like, or what a CEDH deck looks like, whether proxies are allowed. 8 bears rolling is allowed if your name is Jim. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Like, Bears and Cars is maybe a bit of a meme deck, but people would probably let me play it in CEDH pods. I took down some pods in Vegas with it because people don't have a great response for a turn 1 Sarah Ascendant. CNC Power Hour makes a really good point in chat. Let's talk about etiquette. So there's a couple things. They've listed one, and that's having proper tokens and dice. This is one thing that I'm so bad at when I go on Olivia's stream, is I don't have D20s because I don't use them for anything. Like, I have real D20s, but they're not spin downs. I have like a couple D20s somewhere in the house that, I use for whatever. I've gotten them from pre-releases or whatever, but it's not something that I keep handy. But I have a million like of these Spike Feeders D6s. Hang on, I'll show you. I have a million of them. Actually, a million of them. Yeah. So, they make a really good point. Make sure you have all your dice that you need. Make sure that you have all of your tokens that you need. So if you are playing Swan Song, have a bird token. If you are playing, Pongify, have your ape token. If you have rapid hybridization, do all of the research on your deck. Don't just show up with just the deck. You should have all this stuff too. Yeah, if you get Gilded Drake, it's sometimes handy to have either a real Gilded Drake or like a proxy of a Gilded Drake just off screen, so you can be like, I've got a Gilded Drake. Sometimes if you're really prepared, other people, if you're playing Gilded Drake, you might have a couple extra copies of the stuff that you would likely Gilded Drake. So, I mean, like, in most CEDH games, if you're playing like at CEDH level, you're probably going to Gilded Drake, like what? What are good Gilded Drake targets? Gila, Timna, Crom, maybe? I don't know. Like, stuff that you would want to Gilded Drake, if you have extra copies of those sitting around too, that can come in really handy when you Gilded Drake somebody. Generally what I do though is I put the Gilded Drake. Yeah, Mother Effing Mage makes a good point there. You need the Swan Song token for other people playing Swan Song. But yes, good point. But usually what I do, if I use Gilded Drake on somebody else's creature, I'll just put it upside down at the top of my mat to symbolize that somebody else controls it right now. Same thing with any control effects, exile effects, that kind of thing. It shows that they're like still around. They're still influencing the game, but they're not under my control. So I'm not tempted to like untap and try to attack with them. Yeah, searching someone's library through a screen. That's one thing that you can do. A lot of the time, okay, so actually that brings up a good point as well about stuff like a taxiing probe. If you have to reveal somebody else's hand, usually what you'll do in stream is the other two people that aren't privy to that information will look away. So you'll say, okay, you two look away. And then the person whose hand it is not looking away, but they'll hold their hand up to their webcam like this. And yeah, it's an honor system. Like, don't cheat, right? We're having fun with our friends. So you'll hold your like hand up to the webcam like that, so that the person who's probing you can look at your hand. They are like free to reveal that information if they want. But, you know, once you're done, say, okay, we're back, you know, and you can look again. But yeah, it's an honor system. Don't cheat. If you get caught cheating on these servers, they will ban you, and they should ban you because we're playing for fun. Like, don't be a jerk. Yeah, searching somebody's library through stream is a little bit different. I've done that once with a Praetor's Grasp, and the person just sent me their deck list, and they said like pick something, and we had like a text chat going on. I think we were like DMing on Discord or something like that, and I was like, hey, I want this card, and they were like, oh no, that's in my hand. And like, I'm like, okay, I want this other card. And like, you just kind of got to make do with what you have. People are very, what's the word, creative when they're overcoming solutions like this. You can also, where you just DM the top four. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you can't do everything totally perfectly in online play because that's not really like how the game was designed. The game was designed for you to be able to reach across the table and grab something. But a lot of people are very creative and they will help you out, or just ask people like, hey, I've got a Praetor's Grasp, like, how do we do this? And people will help you out. So yeah, they're not supposed to know, but like, what can you do, right? Like, you don't want them to draw the card because they didn't take it out of their deck, right? And if they draw the card and they try to play it, you don't want to be like, oh, that's the card that, because then they've like sequenced their turn around it and everything. Like, you just tell them. Or realistically, don't play Praetor's Grasp online, unless you're Logan, who likes causing grief like that. Yeah, CNC Power Hour makes a good point. Sticky notes. You can also get, I know the Lab Maniacs have these, and like a couple other groups. I think Inkland Tokens does them. But they're like dry erase tokens. I got one from, did I get one from MTG Lexicon? I got one from somebody in Vegas. I have it like handy. I don't know who I got it from though. Somebody was very cool, and they were handing out these dry erase tokens, and they're great because if you have a dry erase marker, you can just write what's on it. What brand is my lights? That's a good question. These are Neewer lights. They're spelled Neewer. We have two LED panels that are 400 and two that are 600. So the one that's behind me here, this guy right here, this one has like a cowl around it. It's like a steel thing that you can kind of adjust and direct the light a little bit. That's a 600. It's a little bit of a brighter light. It is a little bit more expensive, but you can get 2 packs of these on Amazon. They're not super expensive. And for like how much they cost, they're a pretty good light. We use these for filming, and when I say they're not very expensive, I think the 2-pack was of the 400s was like $70 or something like that. Maybe a little over 100 Canadian. Yeah, so they're not cheap, but you can get much cheaper lights. And like CNC Power Hour mentioned before, if you really need something, like go to IKEA and just pick up a cheap lamp. Like, it's not worth it to spend like $100 on lights unless you're like really going to use them, right? Go with something cheap. Lights are lights unless you like really need them for a specific purpose. If you're like broadcasting EDH, unless you're really getting into it, I wouldn't recommend spending $100 on lights unless you're going to use them for something else. I used these lights all the time when I was renovating the basement here. When I was doing drywall and stuff like that, they were great. So, if you need a work light, if you need lights for something else, sure, it's great. But if you're just going to use them to play, EDH streams online once every 2 months, I wouldn't drop the money on that. Just go to IKEA, pick up a couple cheap lights. You can get the ones that clamp to your desk. And again, just pay attention to your angles and try like every single configuration that you can think of for setting up your lights. More sources of light is better. If you have more, try and dim them down a little bit so that you're not oversaturating your play space, and just keep them away from directly overhead. Yeah, Chinese paper lantern lights, they're great. They're cheap and they're great. Cannot recommend enough. Like, go to IKEA if you've got one near you, and if you don't, like, go to a thrift store, find a lamp, right? Any lamp with a lampshade will work. Just make sure that if you're pointing it directly at your playmat, that you have your angles right. Yeah, I think that's just about it. The other thing that I would caution you, just sort of going back to etiquette, is try not to monopolize the conversation. It can be very difficult to follow a conversation online when multiple people are talking at once. So when I'm streaming, I like to try and sit back and listen as much as I talk, and try not to interrupt people, because it can really like mess with the flow of the game. So that's like pretty much it. I wasn't going to get like way deep. I mean, I have any questions. If people have any questions, then let me know. We have a lot of smart people in the chat right now, so even if I can't answer them, the people in the chat may be able to answer them. Yes, CNC Power Hour makes a great point. The Logitech driver for webcams is like kind of trash. And you will get better quality out of your webcams if you roll back the driver to the generic Windows like USB driver for webcams. Yeah, if you try and use multiple Logitech C920s, we found this out when we first started filming, because we used to use Logitech C920s on the show up until last season, which now we've switched to camcorders. But yeah, if you try and plug in two Logitech C920s at the same time, you'll either find that neither of them will work, or maybe only one of them will work, or this is my favorite one of them plugged in by itself won't work, but two of them plugged in at the same time will. So you may have to look up how to do that. You can always, if you join those, anybody want to post the links to the Play EDH Discord? They have a lot of great troubleshooting documents, and the people on there have probably gone through this, so they can walk you through rolling back the webcam driver. And yeah, thanks for joining me. This was super fun. Last minute, I'm going to give it maybe one more minute. We'll take it to 8 o'clock if anybody has any questions. If not, you can always at me on Twitter, at me on Discord. This was really fun. If you have any other things like this that you want to hear me go over in stream, I will be happy to do it. If you want to talk deck building, if you want to talk strategy, if you want to talk gameplay. We did one of those CEDH Q&A streams. I loved doing that. If you guys want to do that again, I'm super in. If you have any questions, if you want me to give you like a tour of the studio, just like at me and say, hey, Jim, let's do a stream on whatever. And I can like set all this stuff up. It takes me maybe 10 minutes to set up. And then we can have a sweet stream like this. Oh yeah, Peter, I said that I was going to address this in the chat. But one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because we want to start streaming webcam games with our patrons. So we're starting it out by talking to our $10 patrons. We've already started talking to them. We've already given them some tips on equipment for the people that want to get involved. But $10 and up, that is going to allow you to hop in on the games if you have an appropriate setup. So we're not... Yeah, for how to start streaming games. Yeah, if you want to start hosting, that would be a good one too. Maybe I'll get a guest on there, because I do happen to know a few people that stream games, like CNC Power Hour or Logan. I've never streamed games though, so I might even have to learn some things there as well. So maybe we'll do a stream like that where I interview one of them and learn how to do it. Yeah, Seraph6 is Logan in chat, and he is the technical know-how behind a million different streams. But yeah, so $10 plus patrons, if you want to play webcam games with us, I can't promise that it's going to be super regular. It's not going to be like, first Monday. It's not going to be Monday every week, but we might start out with a couple one-off streams just to feel things out, make sure that we can get our our overlays and our infrastructure in place. Yeah, CNC Power Hour has been incredible. They've been supporting us on Twitter, helping us out with equipment, with configuration of equipment and all that kind of stuff. There's so much knowledge in this community, and people are so willing to share. So if you just toss the question out on Twitter, you'll probably find an answer. Yeah, like I was saying, we are starting soon. I was going to do that tonight. Actually, I was going to set up a webcam game, but we couldn't find people last minute to do it. But what I'm hoping to do is maybe get a few guests on the show. I do know some people in the EDH community that might want to hop in on a stream every now and then. Logan, this is an open invitation for you if you want to play on a stream that's not Olivia's and if you don't want to have to run it. But yeah, I might, shout out to Olivia or any of the other people in the EDH community that I know have streaming setups. And yeah, they're going to be EDH, they're going to be CDH. We're going to be mostly playing with patrons and then sometimes guests. So we're going to leave it to the patrons that are playing the games to decide. So we're going to ask that they tell us what level they want to play at. Then we're going to bring appropriate decks and we'll play at that level. But it'll be full spectrum. If people want to play, jank whatever decks, then we'll play that. I've got decks like that range from actual factual garbage to precons to, fun whatever theme decks to more tuned casual decks to high power to CDH to like tiered meta stuff. So we can play like literally anything. What does it take to be a guest? Cure for the common game. You want to be a guest? You at me on Twitter. DM me. I think I follow you on Twitter. So just DM me. Yeah, I have no problem with proxies for patron games. What we'll probably do is we'll ask people to consent to having the games be recorded. Because I would love to do game summaries and post them to the channel. So that's kind of one idea that I had. I would love to be able to record a game and then download the VOD and then edit it, toss in the cards that are being played, toss in a voiceover, kind of like what you would see from Mudsta or from Playing with Power or from Casually Competitive. It may not be as good as them, but yeah, I would love to release those as episodes so that all of our fans can see how sweet our patrons are. MTG Lexicon. I just want to say, go check out MTG Lexicon. Go check out CNC Power Hour. Cure for the Common Game is actually doing some really cool stuff. Definitely, I won't spoil it, but go check out Cure for the Common Game on Twitter. It'll actually blow your mind. G3 from MTG Lexicon just posted a Google Doc that is actually a pretty comprehensive list of every EDH content creator out there, streamer or pre-recorded or whatever. It tells you roughly how big they are, what kind of gameplay they do, whether it's what power level they play at, how often, how many, how big they are, all that kind of stuff. If you ever want to go and look for MTG content, that's the place to find it. And check out MTG Lexicon. They are the dive bar of CDH, the dive bar of EDH, I should say. Their stream is super, super fun. They play Saturday nights. I've been on their show before, and it is a riot. These guys are so fun. And they're definitely go check them out. They have sweet streams. Can't say enough good things about MTG Lexicon. Okay, so with that, I think we're going to log off. But thanks for joining me, everybody. And remember, at me if you want to see something else in this kind of a format.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Spike Feeders on YouTube. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you click that subscribe button. And you can click this link to check out our other great videos.